Penguin Random House Audio presents The Last Fire Season, A Personal and Pyronatural History. This is the author, Manjula Martin. For Max, obviously. If we opened people up, we'd find landscapes. Agnes Varda. August. 1. Storm. The night of a dry lightning storm in Northern California, I woke up terrified, and from my bedroom window, I watched relentless spears of lightning shatter the sky, Zeus or Jupiter very upset, fire from darkness splintering the land. And I knew immediately we couldn't all survive this. People, critters, houses, trees. Max rolled over in bed next to me. "There's going to be a fire," I said. We got up. It was 4:30 a.m. I lived on the north slope of a thickly forested hill with Max, my partner, in a small white house under large red trees. Our road was a single lane, dead end. Down the hill, there was a ramshackle neighborhood of cabins. Upslope, past the leaning fence of our yard, there grew 300 acres of mixed evergreen forest, which was privately owned and chronically neglected. From here, the woods spread west into thousands more acres of Northern California landscape. More trees, more hills, small groupings of homes perched between. Farther west, where the coastal range stopped, shrubby slopes descended to the Pacific Ocean, my extended backyard. Wind had woken me before the lightning. It rattled the single-pane windows in our bedroom. Above the redwoods, fathomless clouds lingered like silence. From inside them, the furious sky hurled its energy at millions of acres of dry, deep wood. I had never seen so many lightning strikes. The blades of electricity bisected the air, the earth, everything. My insides were set abuzz. My lungs contracted like they'd just hit cold water. My jaw compacted into itself. My eyes searched for purchase in the uneasy dark. Every muscle in my pelvis, from psoas to sphincter, felt as though it had been turned to wood. Somewhere inside my brain, every synapse fired, and I was thrust into a whirl of anxiety. Go, go, go. The storm continued. Max and I ping-ponged between each window in our house, trying to track the lightning and gauge its proximity to the roof, the large open yard, the 150-foot-tall redwood trees surrounding it, the thousands more trees in the hills. We opened the door and stood on the back porch beneath the eaves and looked up. The canopy blocked our view of the dive-bombing sky. Redwoods were the tallest plants on the planet, older than almost everything. Since childhood, I had felt safe beneath the shelter of these grand trees. I often thought of them as my protectors and myself as their comrade. The redwoods where I lived, coast redwoods, Sequoia sempervirens, were second and third growth, as most in the area were, due to past logging. They were probably over 100 years old, just babies in redwood years. The trees lived together with us in mutual silence, and when it was windy, they swayed gracefully above the roses I'd planted in the clearings between them, as though they were keeping watch. Despite my feelings of comradeship, past storms in human history showed that the trees and I were in fact liabilities to each other, not guardians. Anyway, we couldn't protect each other from this. Lightning was inescapable, an elemental force unleashed. It struck and struck, splintered and shone. My skin bristled as the atmospheric pressure plummeted, but bizarrely this lightning had arrived without rain. The storm was near to us, very near, and every time the thunder clapped, I counted 1, 2, 3 inside my head to clock its proximity. But the expected crescendo of every thunderstorm, the deluge, never came. Instead, electric spears kept plunging toward the earth, and fear kept rising inside my body, and the two connected in my brain and perhaps never came untied. We went back inside. Max looked online for reports of new fires, and I put on a sports bra in case I had to run from something. I then walked to the closet where we kept our camping gear and started to take stuff out. Although we'd evacuated from a wildfire the prior year, we didn't have an emergency kit, a go bag in disaster preparedness parlance, which was fast becoming everyday lingo all over the world. Here, fires didn't usually happen until autumn. In recent years, I had noticed less predictability to the seasons, but by August the land was reliably dry, the hills a mélange of browns and yellows. August nights, however, were moist. In the mornings, the fog crept out of the valleys and back toward the ocean like it was hung over. By September, the marine layer would relax its grip as the Diablo winds, named in part for their capacity to do bad things, began to roll over the mountains from the east, and the oak leaves and fescue would then shimmer like hot gold. Historically, in summer in coastal Northern California, it did not rain. It did not thunder. Lightning was for other seasons. But there was so much fire in that sky, it had to land somewhere. I did laps around the house carrying things from closet to bed. Tote bag, sleeping bag, headlamp, car registration, my asthma inhaler, passports. In the closet, we had an old, cheap backpack with a broken strap that had been my feeble earthquake kit when I had lived alone in San Francisco. I found it, cursed its uselessness, and tossed it on the floor near the front door anyway. I had read that in the extreme heat of a wildfire scenario, synthetic clothing could fuse to your skin, whereas natural fibers burned clean. I positioned my leather clogs by the door and fingered the fabric of my pajamas. Cotton. I added to the pile a wool sweater in case it ever got cold again, although we'd been in a severe heat wave all week. The lightning kept crashing, and the electricity flickered, but held. Max reported back from the internet. No fires yet. Wild lightning pics, though. I kept packing. I thought I could smell sulfur. Somewhere in my body, a habitual response had already taken control. The world was flexing its power over me, and I knew from experience that when this happened, it was important to be quick, be ready, then be gone. At some point, our local firehouse siren moaned its air raid lament. I checked my phone. I checked again. No notifications. But the siren meant that someone nearby had called 911, which meant that somewhere near my home, trees were being cracked open, power lines were falling, small fires were certainly starting. We could only hope that the volunteer fire department was finding them all. Our next-door neighbor was on the VFD. I usually relied on him for intel about storms or fires. I looked out my kitchen window and across the half-acre slope of the yard toward his driveway, but his pickup truck was already gone. Max joined me in packing. We didn't talk much. My thunder counts grew shorter in number, then began again to extend. The lightning stopped eventually. The sirens quieted. Then the light dawned, and it was gray. Then, bizarrely, there was a very small amount of rain, more thunder, and for a refreshing moment, the atmosphere felt like August in Pennsylvania, that summer when I was 15 years old and away from California for the first time, and the thunder rolled across the green landscape every afternoon, and 2 different boys wanted to kiss me. But this moisture was anomalous, limited, I knew. It couldn't make magic happen. It was 2020, the first year of the coronavirus pandemic. There were no vaccines. On Earth's surface, it was about 1 degree Fahrenheit warmer on average than it had been when I was a child. In the United States, a climate denier with white supremacist leanings occupied the highest political office. Around the world, people and places were having a hard time. It was a year of overwhelm. In January, flash floods had displaced 60,000 households in Indonesia. I had been told to stop hugging my friends in late February, and we'd stopped going inside one another's houses in March. That April, unseasonable wildfires had burned in northern climates such as Scotland, Poland, and in Ukraine, inside the exclusion zone at the site of the Chernobyl nuclear disaster. By May, the virus had killed 100,000 people in the United States alone. In June, a wave of protests swept the country in response to ongoing murders of Black people by the police. The U.S. mail stopped arriving promptly sometime in July. In early August, an inland hurricane called a derecho had decimated parts of the Midwest, causing $11 billion in damage and destroying nearly 7 million trees in Iowa, and it had barely made national.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?